welcome back to the wild, which is Slovenia, where I'm currently stood in this cabin because it's raining outside and there's like storm, thunder and lightning, everything. So I thought it's a great time to do this review, which is all about the Fujifilm GF55mm f/1.7, this incredibly wonderful and versatile prime lens right here, which I have fallen in love with. It is amazing. And Fujifilm kindly let me borrow this for the last 2 weeks. I've still got another week left, to be fair, and along with the Fujifilm GFX100s II and the 500mm as well. So I've been doing a lot of testing over the last few weeks, but I've had a wonderful time shooting with this. It's been incredible. My mind has been blown. It's just amazing. So I'm going to kick off and talk about the image quality and why it's blown my mind, because there's a lot to show you, a lot to talk about. I've been doing everything from like landscape, nature, self-portrait, everything really to test this out as much as I can in the field to provide you with the best user experience I can do of this lens. So without further ado, let's get talking about how this lovely lens performed. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is the image quality, because you are watching this review, you want to know how it performs. So we're going to go straight into it and talk about how this lens performs with the image quality, which was superb, amazing, incredible, mind-blowing. And you have to bear in mind though that I do not have any other GFX series camera body. I'm borrowing the one from Fujifilm, which is GFX100s II. And that camera body is a beast. Its resolution is like crazy, crazy good. So with it attached to this lens, it was gonna do well, but I think that camera body brings out the best in this lens, and the two of them together are just this beautiful match made in heaven. They're just perfect. So what makes these images perfect? What is that superb, incredible image you get from this? Well, from this lens, you can get just clear, sharp, crisp, refined images. And I'm used to shooting with the X series, which I used to think was like, wow, it's amazing. It still is, it's still my camera body, I love it. But when I started to look at images I've taken with this lens, like I did one sunset in Slovenia and I had like trees in the distance, landscape, and I'd zoom in and I was like, oh, it's still really clear. I'd zoom in more. I was like, it's still clear, and I'd keep zooming in and you could just see from miles and it's still so clear, and I've never experienced that before. I was just like, whoa, that is some very clear and refined images. And if you want to have them blown up, you'll be able to do that, no problem. They are just beautiful. So I was thoroughly impressed with how refined these images are and just how much detail is hidden within one image. But we'll come back to that because the files are massive. They're around like 200 megabytes a file, which I was shocked by, but it's a lot of data behind an image, which you can understand. Because you have that much data hidden behind one image, I found when I shot in low light, if I needed to use any denoise, which I didn't necessarily need to use for this lens, but other lenses, but you could still draw out so much information and quality with an image that's even a noisy image, which I was really impressed about. Like, it's still sharp as well as being noisy. So that was, yeah, that was pretty impressive. I also think the other thing that made the image quality or just the vibe different is the format as well, in terms of the equivalent. So this is a 55mm, it's equivalent to 44mm. And there was something about this focal length and that depth of field, which I'll talk more about in the actual aperture section, which gave it, again, its own unique vibe, which I loved. So I've done a variety of images. I've done long exposure, low light. I've done a variety of scenarios to really give you an all-rounded kind of taster of what this lens is like. And in each different scenario, it performed amazingly. I literally cannot fault it. And the image quality, every time I drew it back into Lightroom, I was like, whoa. I think when I got my first picture of it, that was of the sunset, and I went into Lightroom, drew the picture through, and I was like, holy moly, that is one crisp image. So as you can see, I was just, I can't fault it. The image quality is incredible. And just some extra parts, which I haven't discussed, but I loved as well with the image quality, the tones, colors, and saturations. It picked up everything beautifully. And I don't know what it is about Fujifilm, but they've always got this spot on. Everything seems wonderfully balanced and beautiful. So overall, the image quality was just fantastic. And yeah, I cannot recommend it enough, but have a look and enjoy, because I most certainly enjoyed getting shots on this. Okay, so the next point we're going to talk about is the build, and I have to start with the obvious, and that is this lens is pretty big. And when I first asked Fujifilm to borrow this, I was expecting it to be the same size as my other primes of the 23mm or the 33mm, which are about that big. They're very portable, very small and compact. I was not expecting this lens. It is pretty big. And actually, I think it's a very similar size to the XF or the X series, 16 to 55mm, if not a little bit bigger. I believe the weight itself is around 780 grams, so it is quite heavy, but it's a quality lens, and I don't mind carrying a bit more weight if I know I'm getting a good quality lens. That's my opinion on it. So it is a chunky lens, I have to say that. But now I understand that it's the standard for the GF series, because if you look at the actual mount size, it is huge. It's for the medium format sensor hole, it's pretty big. So the whole thing, the whole series, which I've renamed the Giant Fuji, is a GF series, a Giant Fuji series, because it's just a big series of camera stuff, which I've come to notice. But as a small person, having this attached to the GFX100S2, I still managed. It was big, don't get me wrong, but I still managed to hold everything. It still felt okay. I think the grippy surface of this and the grippy surface of the camera body really helped with that as well, which was really good. Besides from the point of it being really big, because I don't want to give it a complex, it is still easy to use and handles well. The focus dial is amazing. I don't know why it feels so different, but I've done a lot of manual focusing with this, and it was so easy to find where the focus point is. So yeah, for me, the focus dial was brilliant. The aperture dial was the same, very simple. Each one clicks into place. You have a little lock button as well, and that's great. So it's all, yeah, really simple to use. It does have a thread as well for a filter. I do have one up there, it's not attached at the minute, but it has a filter thread, which is great. And it is weather resistant, which I love, and also it's made in Japan. So it's always nice to have stuff made in Japan and weather resistant. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with the build. I think it's sturdy, robust, strong. I didn't really feel like I would break it easily. I feel like it is really well built. Just a bit heavy, a bit bulkier, but if that means it's more robust, I don't mind. But overall, it's pretty good for the build. Yeah. Okay, so the next point we're going to discuss is aperture, and this is one of my favorite topics of discussion, because if you know my own equipment, I love equipment with a wide aperture. I love primes of a wide aperture. So when I got my hands on this cheeky monkey, I was so happy to see that I had an f-stop 1.7. That is a dream. It sings to my heart. So I love wide apertures. And not to mention the aperture, it does go up to as well f-stop 22, but I'll be honest, I didn't use the high range too much. I did go up, and I have examples to show you, because I know people like to shoot with a mixture of things, and then for landscape photography, that higher aperture is spot on. So why do I love the wide aperture? What is it about it for me? It is magical, it's dreamy, it's ethereal, it's soft, it's beautiful. And I've always loved that with Fuji's wide apertures. There is something so special about them all, and that's been my style for a very long time, is to shoot with a wide aperture. Shooting with a medium format and the 55 with a wide aperture was another level, and it completely changed my style and my photography, and just, I don't know, just a different approach I was doing to things. And the only way I can describe it is I have some shots of myself stood on a mountain, and you can see in the background, blurred out, was mountains, and in the foreground there was some rocks, and then smack bang in the middle was me stood there. And because of, I don't know if it's the medium format or what it was, but something was so lovely that it just made me as a subject pop. The foreground was beautifully blurred, the background was beautifully blurred, but myself was just popped, and it was so nice. And it's almost like that depth of field is pronounced and enhanced more with this lens. Medium format, I don't know, but it's just something about this. It was beautiful, and it almost gave like a retro vibe. And I don't know why it makes me feel like that, but there's something, I don't know, nostalgic-esque added to it, which was lovely. So yes, that aperture gave a wonderful differentiation between your background, foreground, and your subject in the middle, but it did that with quality as well. So like, if I had the aperture at 1.7, the image was still sharp where it was in focus. It was so clear, it was amazing. So yeah, I love that. This is like probably the main selling point for me about this lens. Image quality, yes, but this differentiation between the depth of field was beautiful to work with, and I loved that. And let's not forget why I also love shooting with a wide aperture is for the bokeh. I love bokeh. I love that just dreamy, orby background. And at one point I was taking a picture of a puddle and you could see trees reflecting from the light in the puddle. But when I was focused on the outside of the puddle, which I'll show you what I mean, you could see the bokeh of the trees in the puddle, and it was such a simple scene, but I just fell in love with it. I was like, how is this lens creating such magic out of something so simple? And that's what it does. It was so good. So the bokeh on this was a dream. It was wonderful, and I really enjoyed it. So yes, to sum it up, the aperture and depth of field, bokeh, and just that whole ethereal vibe is stunning with this lens. I don't know what Fuji have done, but they've achieved something very beautiful, and I adored shooting with this, and I hope you can see from all my shots why and what you can achieve actually with this lens, which is a lot. It's all fantastic. So well done, Fujifilm. It is amazing, and it's definitely the main selling point of this lens. Yes. Okay, so the next point I'm going to talk about is the autofocus. Now, in terms of focusing, I was using the Fujifilm GFX100s II. That is an updated camera body, so I'm not too sure what the focusing would be like on the predecessors or the older camera bodies. I don't know, or even just the other ones, because I haven't used them. It's just that camera body, but it worked great. Now, as I already mentioned, I do a lot of self-portrait work. I've done a lot of self-portrait photography with this and filming with this lens, and it always worked really well. And actually the tracking on the camera with this has worked fantastically. The eye tracking, subject eye tracking is great. I've not done anything like wildlife-y or like with cars or trains, etc., because that's not really my thing. And it's not a lens I would use for wildlife photography. But in terms of the human eye tracking, or even like my dog or the mammal tracking, it's worked great. It's responsive, it's fast, and it's fantastic. The only area I did find it a little bit slow was when it was subjects that were close. So if I was focusing on a flower or something where there's a lot in the background and I wanted to get the foreground, it would almost go a bit like a little bit confused of where to focus. But I also think the minimum focusing distance on this is further away than I realised, because I'm used to my crop sensor, and a lot of those lenses you can focus very close, but I think with this one it's actually a lot further away than I realised. So that could just be a user error with something I'm not used to, but overall I'm very happy with how the autofocus on this lens performed, along with the 100s II. I think they both work really well together, and I didn't miss my shots. It was great, and even for like manual focusing, as I've said, it was all great. So yeah, I hope all my pictures show that, because a lot of them are self-portraits where I either do it manual focus of a spot or I do it subject eye tracking. So yeah, it's just a mixture of things anyway, but yeah, it performed really well. Okay, so the next point we're going to talk about is filming, which I, fun fact, completely forgot to film. So enjoy this cinematic voiceover. So filming on the 55mm was wonderful. It was so beautiful. Its clarity, its finesse, its sharpness, its softness, the aperture, all of these elements were just so beautiful to work with. And even with highlights and stuff like that, it wasn't harsh. It was just soft in everything, and it's so nice. It gives such a lovely finish. And the examples I'm going to give you in a minute were all shot in 24p. The camera does give the option for, that's the GFX100s II, does give the option for 60 frames at full HD or 30 frames maximum at 4K, but you can't go slower than that. So there was no slow motion filming, which I really did miss. And I feel like actually it's a shame for this lens because it's a wonderful, beautiful lens. And I can just imagine the filming on this would be stunning. But yeah, it is what it is. Most medium format cameras don't offer filming capabilities, but I really wish I could film slow motion with this lens in particular because I think it would be beautiful. But apart from that, it did a fantastic job. Everything was clear, everything was beautiful, the colors were incredible. But enjoy this for the minute, and yeah, I hope you like what I got. Okay folks, that just leads me to summarize my experience with the Fujifilm GF 55mm f/1.7, and this is just all from my experience out in the field. I don't do studio testing, I don't do the whole aperture sharpness testing. I just go outside, use it for what it's intended for, and just see how it performs. That's how I go about things, and I hope everything I've taken really reflects to you what you can achieve with this lens and how wonderful it has been to shoot with, because it really, really has. I've loved every second of it. It's changed how I do my photography, and I was really trying new stuff because it just felt like a different vibe, which I really enjoyed, and I actually liked shooting with medium format. This is my first time. I've been crop sensor for like 4 years now, so this, yeah, first time with a medium format sensor, whatever, and it performed great. It was such fun to use. So yeah, this is all my humble opinion, that's all it is, but in my opinion it performed great. If you're looking for a professional graded lens that gives you incredible images, lovely depth of field and that wonderful aperture, this is the lens for you. It's versatile and you can use it in many scenarios and different situations. You can use it in low light because of that lovely aperture. You can use it on a mountaintop like I've been, and it's incredible. You can take it anywhere with you and it's robust enough to do so. The only downfalls I've mentioned are the build, the price, which I haven't discussed yet, but the price sits at £2,249. It's a lot of money. I don't really have that money spare to spend, but I think if it is your business or you do have that money to spend, then go for it. But yeah, as a professional, you'll get your money back in no time, because what you can get with this is outstanding and mind-blowing. So there is that side to it. You've also got a bit of weight behind it. We've already spoken about this, and the minimum focusing distance with the autofocus, but again, could just be a user error thing. Apart from that, I had nothing that was a gripe with it. What I would really love to do though is to shoot this with slow motion filming. I don't know if it's ever going to be achievable because of what options there are on the medium format cameras, and they're normally historically just photography cameras, not filming. But I'd love to shoot this with like 120p and just see the quality you can get at that level. If Fuji did that, it probably would convert me to getting it and the GFX series, because it's just, it'd be so nice. I think it's so magical, and to do that in slow motion would be a dream. It really would. So yes, I think it's stunning and outstanding and performs amazingly. I hope you've enjoyed all the shots. Fuji have done a fantastic job. It's going to be very hard to send this back to them because I want to keep it but I'm really grateful that I got the chance to use it. And yeah, if you have it, let me know your thoughts, because I'd love to know what you do with it, what you shoot with it, and how you find it. But I think it's incredible. And do keep an eye out in the future. I will be having some more GFX series reviews on their way. I've got one of the GF 500mm f-stop 5.6 and of the GFX100s Mark II. I've just got a few more trips to do with them first before I can really give my full feedback and provide you with all the shots that I got with it. But so far, very good. But keep an eye out in the near future anyway for those. But yes, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to drop them below. I'm always keen to hear what you lovely folk have to say. But until next time, stay you, stay awesome, stay wild, and stay free. And until next time, you lovely people, goodbye for now. Bye-bye. What else did I want to say? To brighten this up a bit. So find it. Oh, sorry, I just got a bit dark and I had to brighten it up. Too far away. But as a small person with this still attached to the, and actually I think it's a very similar size to the, where am I? I've lost my positioning to write it down, otherwise I forget. The background beautifully blurred. What else did I want to say? I've done an all-rounded like experience of shooting. I've done everything I can. And it's not a what else did I want to say?